Host.
Santi Hernandez.
And today we have a very special guest. We have Susan from Speak Life. Thank you very much for being on our show today. We're really, really excited to have you, Susan. Just please introduce yourselves to our audience.
My name is Susan Bryant, and I am part of Speak Life. And we are a mentorship group here in Marin County. And we do events, we do speeches, keynote speeches, events, curriculum, workshops, all types of different events for the youth to teach speech empowerment. So that's our mission, is really just to speak life into individuals, into youth especially. Mm-hmm. And it's really for everybody. So anybody can learn how to speak life, right? So it's for transitional age students, but it's for the 50 or 60-year-old, right? Who, has been defeated, who has spent a lifetime watching things go wrong. And, your speech really affects your life. So kind of learning how to use your speech to empower yourself, that's kind of why this all started. And then it took off and, we do different things, but that's kind of the basis of what we do.
Wow, that's awesome. I think that's really cool that there's a local just motivational speaking organization like you guys. And that's Speak Life with a Y, right? So Speak Life, yeah. Yeah, because growing up for me, I've always really liked talking or like doing like personal speeches or like doing what is it? They call it like you have classes where they like teach you this stuff, like how to speak in public speaking.
Public speaking.
There you go. It's public speaking goes such a long way, and it's such a big skill. So it's really, really awesome, and I'm really excited to learn more about what you guys talk about and your guys' organization, because I think public speaking is really important, especially to youth, and the way it can really empower a lot of people. Your voice can empower a lot of people. That's why we do Day Radio. Did you want to add anything, Santi? No. All right. So before we actually delve into it, I always like starting the show with a little icebreaker question. And I wanted to start by asking both of you guys what are your guys' plans for this summer? How's it looking?
Summer is just going to be really full of activities for us. We have a lot of things cooking in the fire. On our webpage, we always have
it probably will
events.
Be cooking because it's probably going to be really hot.
Oh my goodness, it's already hot. So yeah, we're just planning things quickly and getting them out there. It's going to be a really fantastic summer.
Awesome. How about you, Santi?
I plan to take some time off and go on some sort of vacation. It's been a minute, so I'm excited. I don't know where, but I'm planning on that. But towards the end of the summer, I feel like everybody starts to come back during, towards the kind of the middle end. So I'll be going away, hopefully.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm thinking about going on vacation too. Not really sure where either. But that's a great time that's a great thing about the summer in general, is that a lot of people are out, a lot more. Well, it's like really hard to find like plane tickets that are cheaper in the summer, because like everyone kind of books their tickets like far in advance. Mm-hmm. But I'll figure something out. But thank you both for sharing that. It's exciting. The summer is always a really exciting, I think, turning point in a lot of people's lives, because it's just so much happens during the summer. So and it's also my birthday month, so I have that as well. So but okay, thank you. So Susan, going back, so how long has Speak Life been? I guess when was it founded?
It was founded 4 years ago, but it's been a way of life for like 10 years. So it started out in Solano County in Vallejo, where we would it's like a way of life, ministering to people, going out, meeting the disenfranchised where they are in their predicament, and really just seeing that these are human beings, right? That's somebody's son, that's somebody's daughter or mom. Mm-hmm. And we always just have a heart for people. So this started just really honestly speaking life into people, right? That we would come across, we would make food bags, and we really got so much out of just what we could do for the disenfranchised population. And people would say, well, what can you guys do? You're only two people. You can't do very much. But I beg to differ. We can do a lot. Mm-hmm. So, these people, they are just like me and you. They have emotions. And a lot of people are there because they made a couple bad choices. 1, 2, 3 bad choices can turn into a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And we just kind of started there. And that was our heart posture. And that's something that no one knew we were doing it. We weren't doing it for any other reason other than because it was in our hearts.
Yeah.
And we just, I don't know. We were just drawn to doing that. And then as it progressed through the years, we started mentoring. And so we would be mentoring people who, just got out of rehab or juvenile hall, teenagers that were in trouble, and we would meet their parents. And so we would start mentoring. And eventually we founded an LLC called Speak Lyfe because we wanted to have more visibility. And so that allowed us to, to get into the schools, to get into the colleges and introduce our workshops.
Totally. Wow. Well, that's awesome. That's great that seems like you guys have had a long history of doing this type of work. And then it's great that you were able to convert this work into an LLC now and be able to, again, participate and get all these different new opportunities now and continue to spread, again, the same message, right?
Right.
And really reaching like a more of an audience. So that's awesome. Did you want to add, Santi?
Yeah. What schools have you guys worked with so far?
We have done a lot in Solano County. There's a couple middle schools. There's the Maritime Academy.
Oh, is that the one in Vallejo? Yeah.
We do a lot there.
I have a friend going there. I know this is a little off topic, but that's like they have like a dress code there or something? Or are they like all dressed in a certain way?
They do. It's different. It depends on what part of the military what classes you're taking. But yeah, we've done a lot with them. They're great. And then some different types of transitional schools as well, where we'll just go in and they'll devote their lunch break to us.
What are transitional schools?
I was going to ask that. I don't know.
Like schools where you're failing. And it's maybe you've already been bounced out of all the schools.
Oh, kind of like a remedial.
Somewhat, yeah. And also like night schools where the kids they didn't graduate and they're not going to junior college, but there's different facilities that are like pouring into them. And so there's a lot of those out in Vallejo. And we did a lot of work with those because those were the kids that really needed our services. And like I said, it was all just for free. Like we just like to donate our time and do that. And then once we moved to Marin a few years ago, we saw that there was, still a need, but that there was more opportunities in terms of connecting with other like-minded individuals, like-minded companies that are really progressive with mental health awareness and drug and alcohol prevention for youth. Yeah. So we were blessed to be introduced to a lot of different nonprofits out here that are doing similar work, but not really the speech empowerment, right? So that's something, that's where it all begins. So we have kids come into our workshop, we provide them with a microphone, we have the speaker set up, and we want them to get used to holding a microphone. We want them to get used to hearing their voice and falling in love with their voice, because public speaking is probably the most nerve-wracking phobia that people talk about when they talk about what makes you nervous, what are you afraid of, what makes your palms sweaty, public speaking. So we want them to get over that fear because their voice is their power. And your voice no one can take away. And so, that's the beginning, getting them used to holding a mic, letting them know that people value what you have to say. There's an audience for you out there, and letting them really see that there is people that want to hear them. Their own families want to hear them. And when you discover your gifts and your purpose is unleashed, now you've already got that skill of public speaking. So now you can really go out and advocate as a youth. As a 13-year-old, there is an opportunity. So we just want to see kids get excited about the possibilities out here in Marin because there's backing out here.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious. So when you go to schools and organizations, and you said services, so what does that look like? Because, do you guys teach about public speaking, how to speak in public, what to do when you're nervous? What is it that your services provide?
Typically workshops.
Okay.
So workshops with curriculum. So it depends. Like what we work with organizations to find out what they need. So if they want to do a session on empowerment through speech, then we'll do a 1-week session with the kids either at lunch or after school. And we go in with the mics, with the, speaker system, and it's ground zero basics. How do you get comfortable with a mic, right? And we have a lot of participation type awards and prizes, different things like that to get them into it. Because if you put a microphone out in a room full of kids, nobody's going to want to get up. You might have one or two, but they have to kind of be lured into that. And so participation is a really big thing. They have to want to do it. And then from there, we've done media literacy.
What does that mean?
Media literacy is teaching them how to kind of control and regulate all the information that is being poured on them. A lot of it false, right? How to discover the truths.
Like fake stuff online, or
even in regards to, let's just say, alcohol and tobacco. Okay, so we know that they target the kids through colorful drinks, watermelon, this and that, and you look at some of these cans.
Well, it's true. I mean, you look at like, for example, like White Claws, or they look very similar to Celsius energy drinks,
right?
You see, because all these energy drinks,
same, actually,
Celsius and White. I always made that distinction. It's like, oh, White Claws and Celsius, they look very similar to each other. One is an energy drink, the other one is an alcoholic drink, and it's just like, you go to Target, you go to all these retail stores, you see all the alcohol that's out right now. It looks like it's made for like high schoolers, because of the way it's advertised, because they make it like you're saying.
And it is. They're targeting them. So we need to teach them how to discover the truth in that.
Yeah.
And I'm just using that as an example. Putting out examples and showing them, when you look at this, what jumps out to you? Would you want to take a drink from this? And then, reading the fine print, things like that. So when I say media literacy, really it's multifaceted. So it could even be understanding social media, right? Because we break down all of these things, understanding that social media is not real, right? You're going to see the highlights of that person's life. Right. And I talk about that in the book that we have for suicide awareness. And it talks about how, you're not going to post pictures of your dirty room and, the F you got. Most people won't. So it's really just teaching kids how to decipher, what's real, what's fake, and how to navigate, because there's so much being thrown at them. It's overwhelming. And so there's basic tools that they can use.
So this is a lot I want to unpack here, and it's great that you're able to create these workshops for these you guys have pretty much hit all the points of like where I think teenagers need the most help in terms of like their mental health and taking care of themselves, which is, again, the drug and alcohol abuse that is present here anywhere in any teen community, as well as the social media and how big social media has gotten now, because you see a lot of these like influencers, or you see a lot of these guys that are like setting an example, right? For these kids, and sometimes those influences aren't the best influences, right? So that's really great. So where do you guys kind of do your own research to actually to teach the kids all these things? Like, how did you guys get to that, creating that curriculum and kind of finding that?
I have a background in the school districts. So I was a computer teacher for several years, and I did student council and PTA president, vice president, auditor, things like that. So I have a long history of working with, with students in student council. So that's kind of like one of my passions, is to see students get involved in student government at a young age. And, part of something else we do is we love the student government aspect, because that's advocacy, right?
Yeah.
And understanding, the way to write a bill, how to present a bill. We do mock debates. We want to get the kids interested in topics that affect them. And this flows over into social justice. We do trainings on that. So we do just a lot of training. It all goes back to equipping them with a voice, right? And unleashing them in their communities to make change. And, there's a lot of youth-led initiatives here in California, even in Marin County. So we have a couple that, we're working on starting. We've already written a bill. We've written a bill against the AB 3195, which was a bill that they had proposed. It got withdrawn finally from the author, but it was going to extend last call till 4 a.m.
And sorry, what's this bill about?
It was about extending last call in bars and liquor stores until 4 a.m.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
on
like people can
Fridays
still buy
I was like, what?
alcohol at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean.
What's the bill right now, or what's the rule right now?
It was pulled after being vetoed 6 times. Mm-hmm. It was finally pulled by the author, but before it was pulled, we wrote a counter bill to that bill.
Okay.
And that wasn't me. That was one of the kids that we mentor who said, let's write a bill against it. Let's write a bill saying that liquor stores shouldn't be able to sell alcohol past midnight. And that was just a fun exercise.
Oh, wow.
Right? And structuring debates and teaching them that there's a moderator, that there's 2 sides, to stay within the timeline and just to operate with respect.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Did you want to add something?
No, I was gonna ask that is sorry. I was like learning along with what you were saying. It's all very interesting and one I think I don't remember who we interviewed or someone that said sometimes when I'm going through a hard time, I ask the kids because the kids have a clear answer to our problems. Like they'll have like
I like that.
Like you can tell a kid something, and as we get older, I think we overthink more and more and more and more.
Right.
And our vision becomes blurry because of everything that has been shown to us, society, our friends and family. But when you're a kid, it's that kind of, you haven't experienced all of that. So their answers are a little bit more like, oh, it's not that complicated, So that kind of reminded me of you saying with the student you worked with that they created a bill to go against the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it goes to reassure also that just dumb notion that a lot of people have that, oh, we shouldn't listen to what the teenagers have to say. They don't know what they're talking about. They're going through all these hormones. They're going through puberty. They don't know they're really emotionally all over the place. We can't really trust. But that's just like BS. You know what I mean? That's just not true. That is not what... Because growing up, it was as a low income person of color, it's always been hard to get my voice heard. And anywhere, especially here in Marin County. I grew up in Marin County my whole life, and going to public schools and seeing how most of the people that were advocating for us were, people that weren't people of color, it was frustrating. And I think that's why when I went into I didn't go into public speaking. When I took public speaking classes in college, I really appreciated that, and it actually gave me something that I wish I had done more when I was in high school, where it's like, oh, I could have been like student body president, or I could have actually advocated for these group of kids. I've always done advocacy. What I mean by that is like in high school, especially the newcomers. So I'm talking about like immigrants that have come here and are new to this country, especially here in Marin County. It's really hard for newcomers to really come and adapt to this. And I don't know if you want to touch on that too, Santi, but it's just seeing them not having their voices heard, right, in the school system, and just having them kind of be looked at as a number or as a statistic or as data for the school to just kind of like put wherever they want. Mm-hmm. That's where I kind of really got into that like mindset. It's like, okay, this is not okay. Like these kids need help, and there just needs to be someone there to advocate for them. So, long story short, I was a teacher assistant for woodshop. I went to Centerville High School, and the woodshop classes aren't there anymore. But when I was there, they still existed, and they put every time, like we would get newcomers, every time we would get these students, again, fresh immigrants here into our school, they would always be placed into these like elective classes that no one wanted to go to, which was wood shop and metal shop and auto shop and all these, and they were really, really like old buildings, But anyways, I was a teacher assistant for wood shop, and then that's where I really got to talk with a lot of newcomers, and just hearing their stories and hearing how like they want to become engineers in the future, or that they wish that they could be using the same, because I was also part of this physics academy where we would use like this like engineering software, and they would look at the engineering software and they're like, oh, like we actually were able to use that back in our home country. It'd be really cool to be able to use that here, but unfortunately we have to we're kind of stuck because we have to take all these prerequisite classes or all these remedial classes that we have to take, But it's just, again, the school system is a whole other can of worms.
Yes.
But I'm just saying that experience there for me was huge, and just being able to hear them and then being able to tell the teacher, hey, maybe we should teach them at least a little bit, or have them have the ability to use some of this software on their own, because they actually know how to use this software. They're not
totally,
because I think that's the big thing that I saw a lot, at least when I was going to school with the newcomers, is just assuming that they knew nothing, like absolutely nothing. Just because they don't speak complete English doesn't mean that they don't have certain skill sets that would actually be really helpful, and they can motivate them to do a lot more in the school itself. It's just, again, it was just hard for them. But again, yeah, that was a big point in my life there for me to really advocate for others and really be able to make changes like that, because it's a fight. It's a fight for sure.
Thank you for sharing, Javier. I wanted to touch a little bit more on your process when it comes to the public speaking part. What are things, when you say get comfortable with the mic, what other things do you guys do? I just find it amazing. I've never really thought about having, an organization that works on public speaking and all of this. So I'm just curious, how does that work?
Number one, we make it fun. Yeah. So it's got to be fun. It has to start lighthearted, right? And we're really animated. We have a lot of energy. So it's really icebreakers, like what we just did. We'll have them do a series of icebreakers. So who wants to get up and take the mic? Tell us 2 truths and 1 fib about yourself, right? And then the kids that are sitting there, they have to guess what the fib is. And if you do it, you get a ticket. Right. And then at the end of the day, maybe we'll have a raffle or something. And maybe there's not a reward, but it's really just getting them up there because they love activities. So we've done a lot of questionnaires with the kids because we want to know, what is it that keeps the kids coming back? And how do we keep those same kids interested in the program as it grows and develops? And they love activities. So, they're on their phones all the time. And at school, it's hard to be a teacher and have a group of kids, right? And it's so structured in so many of the classes that when they're with us, it's they like the activity, they like the one-on-one, they like the excitement. And it's honestly, you just have to keep it fun. So it will start, like I said, with the icebreakers. That gets them, laughing. It's not so stressful, right? But every time that a student comes up and we have a podium we put up there. So every time they grab the mic and they speak in front of a podium, they're getting experience. And the experience builds upon itself. And then after a day or so, 2 days, then we start to give instruction. Like, you want to make eye contact. You want to watch how you project your voice. Gesturing is cool. And we show examples. We do charades. We do all kinds of things that the whole group can be a part of. Even if it's not your turn up at the mic, you're still completely engaged. And so, it's really, it's a mix of research and just kind of a little bit of common sense.
Yeah. Sorry, were you going to add?
No, I was just listening.
Yeah. What I want to say is that's great that you guys actually make that big effort, because again, I know it's really, really hard for teachers especially to really have their students open up. And I feel also we're living in a really interesting time right now because we're living in a post-pandemic world. And I feel like the pandemic made it so that a lot of kids, obviously we couldn't leave our house for some time, and that kind of forced a lot of people to just be on their phones all day. And I don't think it helped really socialize these kids at a young age, right? So coming into high school, a lot of these kids don't really even know how to socialize, or are missing a lot of just social skills, and it just feels weird to be at school, right? And it's hard to get their attention spans up because they've been, almost 2 years. What was it? 3 years almost, basically of pandemic, and everything just being all the rules being twisted and turned all throughout life, right? All throughout those 3 years of the pandemic. I think it's just, we're really, really living in an interesting time right now. The 2020s are going to be a very interesting. Looking back, I think in like the next 10, 20 years, we're going to look at it and we're going to be like, wow, that was a big turning point in a lot of people's lives.
And on what you're talking about, like the fear that was kind of birthed in these kids that they didn't have before that. And also kids are like sponges and they absorb everything that's around them. So, if your mom and dad were afraid of losing their job or losing somebody, that fear kind of really took hold of the kids.
Yeah.
And like you said, everything's shut down. They didn't really have a lot of resources. They can't walk into their school counselor's office. So we deal with subject matter as well. So what we like to do is like, we'll have curriculum, we'll have trainings, but then we always want a hot topic. We call it our hot topics. So hot topics are a hot topic, right? Like, and fear was just a recent hot topic because we have to understand fear, right? And if that fear is what's holding kids back from trying out on the team, from, talking to new kids, making new friends, and stepping out of their comfort zone. So like everything is tied back to motivational principles, right? So when you understand fear and how it can affect you, you can make points and affirmations to direct your day in a different way, right? And so that's like a whole topic right there where we break down issues, discuss them, and they kind of lose the stigma, right? Because if you're afraid of something, but then you talk about it, it already lost its grip on you. Just speaking about it can allow a subject to lose its grip over you. So, understanding the fear, how it comes in, and dismantling it completely, it brings so much freedom. And so then when they're free, they're able to move and make better choices and, pursue their dreams.
Totally. And out of curiosity, what have you seen out of your workshops that you've been having, meeting all these kids? What are some of the most common fears that you've seen among the kids that you've worked with?
Public speaking.
Oh, okay.
Fear of teachers. Fear of failing an assignment. Fear of being laughed at. Fears of bullying. Fears of their parents losing their jobs.
Yeah, that's a big one. I hear that quite a lot too from, so we here at the Multicultural Center, we also have a program called Partners for Success where we help out, we have these youth mentors who work with youth who are working through the probation juvenile justice system. And, they work a lot with these families and the kids. And a big one is always a job. It's always like the fear of the job being lost. And then I guess with that comes with the fear of where are we going to live, or are we going to become homeless, or things like that. It's big. Yeah. Sandy, do you want to add?
Yeah, for me, one of the biggest things is knowing and understanding that when you have the way you present yourself has so much power. Once I learned that, I learned to build the skill. I definitely think it's a skill. It's not. Here's the thing. I speak on, like, on Tay, it's a podcast. You can put me on the spot and present something. I'm not perfect, but I can manage talk and I have to improvise. And often people say that, oh, you're just a natural. You just have that. You have this. And I say, no, if you really look back at my past, I was very, very shy in school. And to this day, even in our staff meetings, I'm very quiet. I don't like to talk. I like to be kind of listen, and unless it's like with my friends and family, it's a whole different story. But in different scenarios, I'm very quiet. It's just I like to be quiet in that way. But when I have to, I'm able to do that, and it's because I've built that skill. And so when I hear you guys talking about how you guys are introducing it to the youth, it makes me really happy, because the reason why I got into building my skill is because when I was in high school, I took a College of Marin class, and it was public speaking. And again, it was even more nerve-wracking for me because I'm like a high schooler, and these like my peers, they were all sophomores, and some of them were like juniors, and some of them were way older who were taking comm classes, college and marine courses. And it was so nerve-wracking. But the professor, she taught so much about how it's a fear for everybody, and tips and tricks, and what to do, what not to do, what can help you. And I learned to listen to my body and say, oh, my body speaks. And that has allowed me to be okay if I'm not prepared to present. So hearing you guys, it makes me very happy, because I find that a lot of people always tell me, oh, you're just a natural. And I say, oh, no. It's a skill. You have to learn and practice it. So hearing you, it just makes me really happy. But anyway, any comments?
Yeah, no, that's great, Santi. Thank you for sharing that. I agree that public speaking is a skill, and that's why it's taught, and it's taught a lot in college. And I wish that more high schools were able to teach public speaking too. I know sometimes English classes teach it, but not every English class does that.
I was going to mention something. I think there's this misunderstanding of public speaking. People assume public speaking is only when you're talking to like a group of people. I learned public speaking can also be like just like the skills that you learn. It can be used.
It's a social skill.
It's a social skill. It's something you can use while talking to like, let's say I'm talking to Javier or someone. How I present myself. It's not just about speaking to so many people. It can be to just having a conversation and learn how to
navigate that conversation and make sure that
exactly. And I wish more youth knew about it, because that can help them a lot, especially if like you go into getting a job, or even asking someone to be your girlfriend, or it requires a little bit of a
courage
in speaking, and that the same kind of butterfly feeling that you feel when you're trying to be talking on stage is the same thing. So it's something that we are not taught how to communicate.
I love that. And that I just want to talk briefly about another aspect of the public speaking that you just hit on, peer pressure. So we did a hot topic on peer pressure, and basically gave them certain structured answers for when you're put on the spot, when someone asks you this summer, hey, come vape with us, drink this. We explain to them, these are real life situations. Most kids take their first drink by the time they're 13, right?
Whoa.
13. So these aren't things that are never going to happen to you. They're going to happen to you. It's just when. Right. So we want to give them easy to remember answers. And so one of the kids recently was asked to vape after school with a group of kids. And it was like a forceful peer pressure situation.
Yeah.
And it caused her so much anxiety, even though she knew what to say. It's always different in the moment. You can be prepared to say something, but that's another strength that comes with asserting your voice, making the eye contact, and using like I phrases like, I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to do that. And that makes all the difference in the world. Because if you don't know your voice, then you're just going to follow the crowd. So we want kids to come away from the crowd and go against the grain.
And I can understand why it could be hard too, just in the fact that, let's say maybe this crowd of people that they're talking to are their only group of friends,
right? And
their only group of like people that they can really speak to.
Yeah.
So that makes the decision even harder for them. I would believe so, because, I mean, or maybe they're just peer pressured into doing it because they just want to fit in. They just want to fit in, and that's unfortunately how a lot of people get into gangs as well here, is just out of peer pressure and out of just not really finding a place to fit in. Right. So they get into gangs, and that's really powerful stuff. And I'm glad that you're teaching these kids hey, you can say no. It's okay to say no, and it's gonna be all right. There's always gonna be a new group of people. I mean, you guys are their friends. You're making new friends there at these workshops. Totally. So it's just like. It's just, because I think also like growing up, and I'm just trying to channel my inner teenager here again. I just remember like also being in a position where it's like I felt like what I was experiencing right now as a teenager, that was going to be like the rest of my life right there.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you're like 14, 13, you don't know exactly what's going to happen when you're 20 years old or when you're 25 or when, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, you feel like you're in this bubble because you're in a school setting where everything is a bubble. But then you're going to see that it's hard to describe now, but like eventually the school setting's going to be done and you're going to be on your own. You're going to have a whole bunch of decisions to make. And that's when you'll really learn that, I shouldn't have felt the way I was feeling back in middle school, back in high school, because actually I have more control now than being, so.
They're lifelong principles. I mean, it doesn't go away, like you said. Mm-hmm. So we want to teach them grounding techniques that will go and, be implemented for the rest of their life.
So what are some of the techniques you teach them?
Just grounding. So first of all, when you're in an unfamiliar situation or you're being provoked to do something you don't want to do, something like just taking a moment and acknowledging your senses, right? Not going in the future. Oh, this might happen. Oh my gosh, they're about to make fun of me. They're going to point at me. They're going to call me names. I'm so embarrassed. Just be in the moment, ground yourself, breathe, and say, I don't want to. I'm not going to. Understanding that all problems are temporary. Right? Even as adults, it can seem like this problem is so big, but it's probably not going to be there tomorrow, let alone in a month or a year. So, teaching them that things are temporary, the grounding techniques are really important, not just with peer pressure, but with mental health.
And there's solutions out there. That's the other thing. Sometimes I think kids get themselves into this headspace where, well, I'm out of solutions or I'm out of hope for this situation or something like that. But it's like, again, you just have to listen to other people too and listen to what others have to say about, because I'm sure in these workshops you've also found that there's a lot of kids who actually share very similar experiences or share very similar problems, right?
Yes.
Because again, that's really important too to understand, and that just kind of circles back to the whole premise of just public speaking and how important it is for youth to hear this, because again, if they don't hear other people going through what they're going through, then they think they're completely alone and that there's no real hope out there. Right. But then, I mean, I always enjoyed hearing a lot of the TED Talks that were shown during high school and sometimes in college, because a lot of them were like very interesting stories. And there's a lot of great stories on TED Talks. But again, any kind of story, any type of setting where a kid, a youth, someone who's vulnerable, who's looking for something, it's so good to just attend like these public speaking events or seeing like a lot of these mental health events, like the one we did like 2 weeks ago with Drew Robinson over at College of Marin. That was huge. Like having here, like right there, like hearing the story of a suicide survivor, and hearing his story, like just like again, those stories are powerful, and it's so good to be able to again have youth hear. Anyone really hear those stories, because storytelling is really powerful for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys do suicide prevention, suicide awareness workshops, or?
We have not yet, but that's definitely in our curriculum. That we have a program for that. We just haven't done it yet here in Marin County. But again, and that is tied also to Speak Lyfe. Right. So our goal is a lighthearted approach. Right. So if someone is hurting themselves and wants to, inflict self-harm, then we need to navigate them to the right person. Right. And that's your mom, your counselor, an older sibling, a family member that you trust. And if they don't have somebody in their family, where to look, because there are resources, right? Like the 988 campaign and other things like that. But we teach how to, before it gets to that point of you want to hurt yourself or you feel like there's no escape, how to, again, speak life into your day. Be kind to other people. Right? Look for the joy in your day, because somebody always has it worse than you, right? Even though that's hard to hear when you're in the middle of something, you got to be happy for what you have. Yeah. You have to find joy in the things that are good in your life. And then building resilience, what that means. How do you build resilience? Talking about it. Like I said, when you talk about it, it loses its grip on people most of the time. Breaking down stigmas, debunking myths. We've addressed all of those things like in the book that we put out for youth. And then ultimately, your life is so precious and you're a light and the people around you need your light. So we just really build the kid up. We want the children to understand and the youth that, that no person on earth has the right to take your joy from you. No circumstance can take your joy from you. That's something that comes from within. And, if it's a case of bullying or something like that, then there are ways to deal with it. You have to sometimes tell somebody in authority, You don't want to tell. Well, sometimes you have to. You have to address the issue. You have to use the affirmative remarks such as, I don't want to, don't do that, don't touch me, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times when you just stand up and you speak for yourself, it goes away. But there's a lot of just checking on somebody, right? Like we teach them and we talk to them about checking on your sphere of influence, right? So you have a cousin that lives 3 hours away, text your cousin and say, hey, how are you doing? Sometimes just asking somebody how they're doing is going to, that's going to give that person what they needed because maybe nobody asked them. So there's little things they can do for the people around them that actually makes them feel better and feels like they're doing, some good work in the world.
So you mentioned a book. Your book covers all of what you just mentioned?
Right. Yeah.
And it's targeted to teens
and young adults.
Okay.
And it's a free download on our webpage. And it's just a guide. It is a guide. It's not like a fictional storybook or anything like that. It's practical, short, easy to read chapters on how to be aware of mental health and how to prevent suicide, not only, from an internal standpoint, but around your friends and family, and how to just be knowledgeable about the subject because, it's something that wasn't talked about for a long time. And maybe some families don't talk about it.
It's breaking these stigmas.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe families have, somebody in the family that it's happened to. So then it's even more hush hush, but it's getting it out in the open, creating a dialogue, and it's a light, easy read for kids.
Okay.
Awesome.
And so they can get the book
They can download it on the webpage.
Okay. Do you want to say the webpage?
SpeakLifeNow.com.
All right, and that's Lyfe with a Y.
YF.
And we'll have the website linked in the description of the live stream. So, well, thank you for sharing that. Actually, I wanted to go back to social media, and I know that's one of the aspects that the book talks about. What is some advice or guidance you can give to people who are navigating social media, like to understand, like, it's not real life. It's not, I'd love to hear it.
Number one, take a break. Take a break from it. It doesn't mean you have to give it up forever. Literally take a day, take an hour, take a week. Because what happens is it's just all consuming and it takes the attention away from your problems, okay, or your schoolwork or that assignment you have to do. But those issues aren't going away. So if you're scrolling, it's so deep. It's like just scrolling before bed is so unhealthy, right? It puts images in your mind.
Yeah.
And we also teach kids and youth and adults even that you have to guard your eyes and your ears. So you don't want to let anything in. Nobody can do that for you. So when they learn at a young age, hey, I really have to guard my eyes and my ears because when this stuff gets in my spirit, it's going to affect the way I think. Like even video games, right? Similar. So with social media, we want you to take a break. At least don't, like the hour, 2 hours before you go to sleep, you shouldn't be on social media. And you have to understand its place. It has a place. Okay, maybe you want to keep up with what's going on with, maybe it's good, right? The football team or, some organizations have a lot on social media. It's not a terrible thing. But if you use it recklessly and you are just completely absorbed with it and you're view of yourself is according to what someone else is posting, that's not healthy.
It gets really toxic.
Yeah.
It can get really, really toxic. And that's a huge one too. And you just pointed out a big point, and something that I personally have had issues with, and have seen a lot of youth have issues with, is body image.
Yeah.
100%. Body image has always been like a huge insecurity for myself, and again, from people that I've heard and a lot of my friends. And social media doesn't make it that easy at all, because people love posting like, well, how much better they're looking or their improvements, which is good. It's not bad to show that, but it's also not good to really focus in on stuff like that on your behalf. Like, let's say you're struggling to lose weight, or you don't look a certain way. So you're trying to change your style or something, but just constantly looking through social media and comparing yourself to all these other people, and not really understanding that, hey, yeah, you're comparing yourself, but you need to understand that you're also unique in your own way, right? And you need to find out how you can have your own style and be happy with your own body, be comfortable in your own skin, and stop trying to really compare yourself to all these people that you see online, because it's, again, also not very healthy.
Right.
Yeah.
I think even for me, that I spend a lot of time on social media because it's my work. I've always had it, and I've been very open about this. I have a very interesting relationship with social media, because the minute that I start feeling that I'm posting because a thought of it's gonna, in a way, it's kind of like showing off. In a way, kind of rubs off like showing off. The minute I start having a little bit of feeling that it's time for me to take a break, because that's not the point of social media, for me at least. That's not where I want to go. I don't want to show off, new car, new clothes. I don't. But there are times where that, because I'm watching people do that the mindset kind of shifts into me doing that. And it's when I'm like, okay, I got to take a pause. Okay. But it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, I always say like, oh, I'm going to take some time off. But sometimes I say, but I may take some time off from posting, but I'm still on it. Because I think it's just, especially with the younger generation, it's become part of life in a way. Right. So detaching from that is so hard. Again, for me, it's work. So sometimes I have to be on it. I can't fully delete an app on a phone, because I'm to my work, right? But for the youth, I can see how dangerous it can get, because when we talk about suicide, the comparison, the pointing fingers can come really real to the mind, right? Not to what's surrounding us, but to the mind. And then the other part is, people use it in a way where if they can't find someone to express their feelings, they use social media to express their feelings, to be heard. So it's something that we really have to learn, that social media is not the real world, right?
Exactly. And that also, once it's out there, it's out there. Mm-hmm. So, and how to guard yourself from being in a compromised situation, because everybody has their cell phone now. And we try to warn them, like with the summer coming, and, stay away from those situations where you might take a drink or smoke something and your body isn't used to that. And, with the hot sun and taking a drink of an alcoholic beverage with a high percentage of alcohol, with a whole group of kids with their phones, that's a disaster waiting to happen. And letting them know, hey, this happens. This has happened to my son, my daughter. Yeah. Please don't end up face down in the flowers with people posting you, because they'll do it, right? And so really just guarding yourself in this world where everything is posted all the time. Yeah. And it reiterates the fact that it's never been more important to make wise choices. Yeah, like your digital footprint, right? Yeah. So it's just like making sure that whatever is being posted on social media is by you, or if someone else is posting it, you are giving them permission, or you are aware of them doing that, because that's huge. I haven't really even thought about that. It's like,
Yeah, especially with teenagers during the summer and everything, they're way more susceptible to just like recording everything that's going on
Right.
and recording others without really their consent, and
Totally.
that can get really ugly. It can get really ugly.
and hard to live down.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, and thank you for talking about that. One other thing I wanted to kind of touch on here is do you guys have you guys done workshops with trauma survivors or like survivors of
We have. Yeah, we have. I wouldn't call them workshops. That's more of a case by case, like a mentorship, where, there's a lot that we do that isn't structured in a school or a nonprofit, where we meet people all the time. Because every day we're out meeting people.
Right.
And we have our eyes open for a certain type of person. Like we'll say hi to everybody, but certain people bite, right? And they want to talk. And so when you're just talking to people in the community, which is something we don't do a lot anymore, right? Saying hi to strangers and how is your day? Well, tell me about it. You'd be surprised how many people want to share what's going on in their life. And within 5 minutes, we're finding out that this gentleman in a suit with a briefcase is really struggling. Like this high profile attorney is miserable, depressed, and doesn't know what to do. Right. So we get a lot of that where we counsel, one-on-one. We exchange our numbers all the time. If I find a lady or, a woman, we'll exchange numbers. My husband deals with the men. And, it's just like an ongoing thing where sometimes people just want to talk. I don't have to have all the answers, but I make myself available. And everything we do is operated by two things, and that's love and humility. So if I'm not operating in love and humility, I don't want to be a part of it, right? And so everything I touch is with love and humility. And so, that's really the message at the end of the day, is just to make yourself available. And, I can be the solution to somebody's problem. As soon as I leave here and go get food, I will probably meet somebody that I will end up talking to for 30 minutes. And, that person was put in my path for a reason. And, we all have people that are waiting for us to help them. So like your group of people is different than mine and yours is different than mine. But we all have an audience of people who will receive from us. And so do the youth. They are called to, they want to be a part of the solution. And we tell them, there is a group of kids that are going to learn from you, but not you, and vice versa. So, it's just being aware that we can always help somebody, especially with the focus on Mental Health Awareness Month, like just talking to somebody. And, people say, well, ask them about their mental health. You don't have to be so like newbie. Just be like, oh, I love your bag, and you get in a conversation with somebody and then they, you find something in common. So you start talking, and then if it comes out, it comes out. And if they want to talk about something that happened, sometimes that's all it takes is just somebody to listen and care. I can't tell you how much people just want to talk and be heard. And there's just their family doesn't care, or they don't think their work associates care. So it's the little things that make a big deal.
Totally. Did you want to add? I think you hit a great point there, and just again reiterating my fact of it's just so important to just talk and not keep yourself in your thoughts in your mind, because it's really easy to put yourself in that position and just kind of like have all of your problems just kind of be you're just thinking about them 24/7,
right?
But you don't really have, like you said, there's sometimes just their option doesn't exist at the moment, as in like. Right. I can't talk to my parents about it. I'm scared what my parents are going to say. They don't want to make their parents scared, right? They don't want to create fear in their parents, so they'd rather not say. Or their friends, they're kind of scared if their friends, hear them talk about this, they're going to not want to be their friends or something ridiculous like that. Honestly, okay. One thing I remember when I was going, when I was in high school was, I had a lot of friends who were going through a lot of mental health issues, and I would be there to just hear them out, provide, some emotional support for them, and just hearing them, because sometimes I just needed to hear it. But then when I was having my own issues and I would reach out to these same people, they didn't really give me the same emotional support that I was giving them.
Yeah.
And that was a really hard thing for me to go through. But at the same time, it helped me learn to really be wise with how I use my own emotional, like how much I can take in emotionally, and also taking in like, okay, if these people are not showing me the respect that I'm showing them, or showing me the respecting my time like I was respecting them, then I just leave them. I mean, simple as that. And it was hard, but at the same time, I felt so much better after, because one, I felt like I wasn't just giving up my time and feeling used, and two, I just think it was better for my mental health in the long run, because if I was going through my own issues, it was a lot hearing their issues. So, I always say this is just always prioritize your own mental health. Always prioritize your own mental health. Okay.
Absolutely. And I like to say you pour out of your excess, right? So you only give your excess energy, your excess time. You don't want to just keep giving like what you just said, and then you end up empty and weak, and you can't go through your own day. So you give of your excess.
Interesting. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
No. So we're have a few minutes left on the show here. I just wanted to ask you, Susan. This has been great. It really has been really, really great being able to talk about all these subjects and all the work you've been doing. Are there any last thoughts that you wanted to add here to our conversation before we call it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to acknowledge both of you for doing this. And I think it's a wonderful program where you're dealing with, the topic of transitional aged youth, because we don't want to have, once you graduate and you're on your way to college, a lot happens, right? And sometimes they don't get into the college. Sometimes people have made bad choices, and they're not even looking at college, right? So I think this is a great thing, and I'm just really excited by what both two of you are doing in terms of content. And I looked at a lot of the past sessions, and I mean, the subject matter you cover is so broad, and I just think it's a wonderful thing, and I love it. I love to see the kids get on here and talk about what they're going through as well.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. I think, again, also the work that you and Chauncey are doing with Speak Lyfe is so important. And it's really great to have you guys here in Marin County and be able to support this youth community, because it's definitely a community that needs it. Yeah. Santi, did you want to add anything here?
Yeah, I would love to see what you guys continue doing. Like I said before, communications in general is a skill that is not taught in schools. And it's something that once you get out of high school into college and out of college, it's like necessary in order for you to have confidence in yourself and be able to not be stomped on or by other people, because you know how to communicate and understand others. So I really wish you guys the best in continuing the work that you do, because it's something that I see as I get older, that it's something necessary. I'm glad that I'm learning to communicate, but I know that other people end up for a really long time not knowing how to communicate, and then realize super late, oh, this is what's going on. So yeah, and thank you so much for your time being here.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, it really was great. And like I said, you guys being here and serving Marin County is so important, because I haven't really heard of any real motivational speakers or motivational speaker organizations or anything like that at all really here. And like I said, I've lived here my whole life, so it's really cool to see you guys out in the community and really showing everyone, hey, this is the power of your voice. This is why we're doing what we're doing right now. Both of us share very, very similar missions and values. Yeah. And again, I'm always a huge advocate for this type of work. But yeah, that's just about all the time we got. But thank you again, Susan, for being on our show today. Again, if people want to connect with you, they can connect through, what was it again? What was the website?
It's speaklifenow.com.
All right. And we'll have
Lyfe.
Lyfe. And we'll have that in linked in the channel in the description of this video.
Okay.
And then we will also. Do you guys have any social media like an Instagram or?
I think it's Speak Life Instagram. It's Speak Lyfe.
Okay, we'll have that also linked as well in the description, and they can reach out to you directly there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Either way.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you to our audience, and thank you Susan and Santi again for being in the conversation today. And we will catch everyone next week. And take care.